also board. How familiar with it were you when you were lobbying for it?
I worked with Russell T Davies, who I think is the man who is the person who is most responsible for what we have, which is the Renaissance, because he's the writer. And I'd worked with him on a show called The Second Coming, and we had a really good working relationship. And I was out running one day, and I'd read that Russell was going to do Doctor Who, and I thought, wow, that's interesting, because he's an intellectual heavyweight in a sense. He's done a lot of political drama. He came to the fore with a show called Queer as Folk, which smashed a lot of boundaries in television. He was political without being overtly political. And I thought that's a very interesting move for him to make. And I was considered a kind of political actor working on social realist dramas. And I felt like I'd acted for adults for a long, long time, and I wanted to change my career, and I really loved working with Russell. So I emailed him, and I said I'd like to audition for it. And I wanted to audition for it because I thought, Time Lord, that means he's falling through time. That means he's lonely. I can do lonely. So I auditioned. They gave me a plastic hand and a camera, and I wrestled with a plastic hand. Because I was seen as a very, very serious actor, you know. And they didn't believe I could do the comedy, and they were right. I got there eventually. So I think that's why I had to wrestle with it. You know, is this apparently Shakespearean guy going to be prepared to wrestle with a plastic hand? And I did that in a tiny little room on Oxford Road in Manchester. And then from there I started reading with people, and I read with Billy Piper, and it was clear that Billy was always going to be the person. And there was a good chemistry, and off we went.
I was absolutely over the moon when I heard you were Doctor Who, because I loved you in Shallow Grave and the Bottom everything. Cracker. This is the part where I hope I don't get brain. Why did you leave?
Why did I leave? I left because my relationship with Russell T Davies, Julie Gardner, and Phil Collinson completely broke down during the shooting of the first series, 13 episodes. I think it's fair to say that a behemoth like Doctor Who, anybody will tell you it's probably true of Lost, it's probably true of Sopranos, it's probably true of all the big shows, that the first series, nobody knows what they're doing. And the politics are raging. You get executives at the BBC that were very hands-off. They were like, if this fails, I don't want to be implicated. No? Wow. And then when it gets picked up, they're like, I'm responsible for this. So the shooting of the first series was a nightmare, and I was right at the centre of it. I was probably more experienced even than Russell. I'd probably been on more television and film sets than anybody. And I could see what was going on, I reported it back, and I just got silence. And I got a lot of, well, we didn't know that was happening, and I was like, well, it's your job to know what's happening. So the relationship of trust broke down. So off I went.
Now, having said that, you're doing Big Finish. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You have an amazing voice. I mean, I do radio, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could speak like that. Like the Orbital record, when I hear you on the Orbital record, and when I hear your audiobooks and stuff, so that voice is amazing. And so it's perfect for the Big Finish audience. How is the Big Finish going, and what is it like being the Doctor?
I loved it. I was surprised. Obviously, I've run my career on writers. You're only as good as your writer as an actor. And the standard of Big Finish's writers, their ability, having never written for the television series, to capture the voice of that character is really, it's very impressive. And I found it, I do remember the first day, it was just before Christmas, a couple of weeks before Christmas, I went to a studio in this horrible industrial estate, God knows, somewhere in London. Miserable place. It was pandemic time, so I was alone. Usually when you do an audio drama, you're together with the actors, you have time to hang out, nothing. It was just me and the gentleman who was recording the whole thing. We were masked, the director was dialing in, all the other actors were dialing in. But I found myself doing it and it all came back very easily. My sound engineer just kept saying to me, "Can you stop moving?" Because I was banging the mic and buttons were rustling. Because my doctor was quite physical. And I had to kind of, I should do it in a straitjacket, really. But it all came back, and it's a lovely way to do it. And I'm going into the studio in 3 weeks to record more.
Good question. This is the last part of the trilogy of these embarrassing questions I'm afraid you'll punch me for asking. Would you, pretty please with sugar on top, come back for the 60th anniversary?
That's very doubtful. My relationship with the BBC over Doctor Who has not healed. It hasn't. I hope this never happens to you, but at the time of my leaving, I agreed with Russell that I would go quietly and respectfully, and I would look after the show in publicity-wise, in terms of publicising it. And then, without saying anything to me, they announced that I was leaving. They didn't tell me they were going to do that. I was walking down the street and suddenly I got quite a lot of aggression. And more importantly, they should have said it. They created a quote and they attributed it to me, which said I was tired. Now the thing is about that, I found it too tiring. I didn't find it too tiring. I found it too tiring working with Russell and Phil and Julia. I didn't find it physically too tiring. When they said that, any other producer reading that would go, "Oh, well, we're not going to employ Chris Eccleston because he gets tired." So it was a lie. And it was in quotation marks. And I'm from Salford. You don't do that to me. So they issued a kind of apology, but it's not enough. But I'll do Big Finish and I'll come to these conventions.